let's start with that. The foundation, kind of the evolution, the idea. Where did it come from?
Well, when I retired, I had no plan to retire. I had zero plan. And so as things started going on, it's been 5 years this year, this coming December. So what I did is I started doing some talks on teamwork and leadership. I wrote a book called The 100-Yard Journey, which is really cool. Dave Matter helped me with that, did a good job. And people would ask me as the last couple of years were going on, what do you miss? And I said, I miss game day because I was in a zone. I mean, for 4 hours, I was in another planet, and I absolutely loved it. Not always what happened in the game or before, but at the end of the day, I did. And I miss taking care of my players, loving them, hugging them, seeing them leave different people than what I got them. And so that fast forward a couple more years later, my wife Missy asked me one day, she was just looking at him. She goes, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah." So what's going on? I said, I don't know. I just don't know if I'm doing anything significant. And she says, "Well, why don't you do what you love to do? And you love to take care of your players." And that's where we decided, once you start a foundation. That's how the whole thing started. And we had a 1-year anniversary this past April. So this has been, we've only been in this. I've learned a tremendous amount. I've run a business for, 25 years as a head coach, but business is business, but certainly knowledge of the business. I've learned an awful lot. I've had good people around me. And so that's kind of where it was. And that's kind of how we got it going. And, we've been very fortunate that, we've worked really well, and a lot of great people jumped on board.
And how about the mission? What is Gary Pinkel hoping to accomplish with the foundation?
Well, it's GP M.A.D.E. We used to have Mizzou M.A.D.E. We talked about it. Mizzou M.A.D.E. is we can make you faster, stronger, a better student because we do things better. And that's what Mizzou M.A.D.E. was. Well, GP M.A.D.E. is MAID's an acronym for Make a Difference Every Day, M-A-D-E, in the lives of children. Because that's what I miss, taking care of my players, helping people. And so this is kids up through 18 years old. So we have like 3 components. One is kids with, which kind of relate to my life a little bit, is kids with lymphoma, leukemia, and research. And we just gave a big grant out about 2 months ago to the Lymphoma Leukemia Society for this part of the United States. And so that's one thing that we had done with a grant there for research. And so this is to help kids that have cancers. I have cancer, and that's something that kind of we're going in that direction. And it's been it's really, I think, feel really good. I try to explain to people about giving money for cancer. I've done it all my years. You give so much a year to research, and you think it's pretty good. I feel pretty good about it. But at the end of the day, though, I want people to understand that the research is everything. It's everything. That's why we're winning the war against cancer. So my 2 cents on all this is, when I talk about this to people, is you should feel awesome inside, whether you give $1 or $10 or $100 to research for cancer, because at the end of the day, that's why we're winning the battle. So that segment is right there. I have a brother and sister that grew up in wheelchairs, and they reached adolescence. They lost their ability to walk, went in wheelchairs. My sister's older than me, my brother's younger. And obviously a profound effect on me growing up with 2 brother and sister with special needs. And so what I do is I have a part of this, the other pillar, the one pillar I just told you about. The second pillar is kids that come that have physical challenges. And physical challenges, and what we're trying to do is assist those kids. Wonderland Camp, which is a camp in central Missouri here for kids. This year, for example, what we did is we gave a grant to them. And this is just for this particular one. These are for kids who go there in wheelchairs that they can't, they have all different types of disabilities and challenges. And and they go on rides like at Disneyland. You go to a lot of rides, but a lot of people wheelchairs can't do anything. Well, they have all this thing set up where they can get on versions of a roller coaster. They can mountain climb with these big harnesses. They move them around. I mean, when I saw it, I almost was in tears, because I called my sister up. My brother's passed away. I called her and said, "You won't believe this. Things that you could never do years ago, Now kids can do this. So that was very rewarding for me. And every year we'll choose to support other things. So that's the second pillar, is kids with physical challenges. And then the third one is kids that that come from really difficult backgrounds. I've been to I've recruited almost every major city in this nation. And I've been in some homes that just are absolutely incredible and challenging and difficult, and just a lot of dynamics. And so I have a real strong desire to assist there, because I felt that way, for me, with my players that came into our program. No one ever, a young man comes in, and anybody graduate from college, no one ever went to college in my family. But I said, that's number one. That's going to be something that's got to be one of your major goals here. You come to Mizzou here, you're going to get your degree. You're going to earn it and get your degree. And then you're going to marry a gal at Mizzou or some other university. She's going to have her degree, and then you're going to change the generation of family. That's what you're going to do. So I used to talk to a bunch of my players the last 25 years that were in that from a motivational standpoint and almost a responsibility standpoint. So we're spending a lot of time in education here. We have right now scholarship programs. We have 25 scholarships that we're giving out this year, in 2020. We're excited about doing that. We got 16 of those scholarships are going to be in St. Louis, Kansas City. And so we really feel good about that. We got 13 in St. Louis, and I think the other 5 are in Kansas City. We have some in Central Missouri too. We're starting these scholarship programs in our 2 biggest cities, as I just mentioned. And the neat thing about it is we want them to grow. So these are renewable scholarships. This is where you go, you hit your GPA, the goal, they pass your hours goal, and then we're going to give that scholarship to you again the next year, and the next year, and the next year. So we have about $156,000 committed right now to scholarships for these kids. So anyway, that's the 3 pillars, if you will. Very rewarding for me. I mean, it's almost like it's been heaven sent, because it's kind of what I'm doing now is significant. It's significant in assisting kids, which I did my whole career.
What's that moment like when you even get to tell them they get a scholarship, or they get to go to this cool camp, and to sometimes be the messenger? Some of these kids may not know who Gary Pinkel is. They may not know that you beat Oklahoma, or you had kids in the NFL. And they might have to Google you, but holy crap, they're excited, I bet.
Yeah, they really are. I think what pretty much what set it up is like some of the administrators at the school. But what we did is we did some Zoom. We got some St. Louis and Kansas City, got them on there. And it was so awesome to see their faces just light up. It was just like a light bulb. They did pretty good setting me up for those ones that said, who the heck's Gary Pinkel? I think the administrators of the school, the counselors, some of Mark Fenner, Peggy, the people who work with me, and I think that they set it up a little bit, so they knew who I was. And but it was really awesome just to see them. And that's a point for me to be encouraging to them about, graduating from college. We're setting these up like this. We're not going to just give you a bunch of money in 1 year. We're going to give you a little bit every year for 4 years. And that in itself, goal set, things like that. So I've always talked about that also. But that's where we can make a difference. As I mentioned to you, what I told my players all the time that came from those kind of backgrounds, that's the same things apply to a lot of these kids. And so we do it basically, number 1, it's on need. Okay. Number 2 is someone that has a desire to graduate from college or go to trade school. Trade school is fine. It's just education. And the third thing is they're good people. They're quality individuals. So that's kind of the 3 things we look at.
So you're famously focused, intense. You may have intimidated a few of us along the way. How about now in this role? Because I bet you, though, you want to win at this. You want to take it to the next level, I bet.
Yeah, what I hopefully a year from now, when I'm doing these interviews right after April will be our 2nd year. Hopefully, I'm telling you that we have 50 scholarships instead of 25. My goal in St. Louis, Kansas City, is to double the amount we have every year for 4 years, and so that we kind of get this cycle going. And it's not going to be easy, but there's a lot of people out there that care. And a lot of people are very trustworthy to me that they'll utilize their donations the right way. And, I appreciate that. But it's really very important that we continue to have it grow. And we've generated last year about $300,000 in almost like 10 months, so 8 months. So what can you get going as we crank this one out this year? We have a par 3 tournament at 18 holes last year. Now we have 36 morning and afternoon flights. We just moved it to August 18th just because of all the stuff that's going on. But again, we got a lot of generous people out there, and it's my job to also have people to understand that you want to make a difference in the lives of kids, which our foundation is about. It's my job to convince people that own businesses, people that have the financial capacity, that this is something you can really do to make a difference. And so that's my challenge with the people around me to get that done.
It's interesting. It's been 20 years ago, I guess, at this point, right? You're still at Toledo. But it's going to be your 20-year Mizzou anniversary coming up this fall. Would you have guessed then that you'd be so entrenched? I mean, this, hailed Mizzou coach with all these players in the NFL, and I'm not saying you're the king of the Ozarks, but recognizable around our state.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty cool how it's evolved. And I don't know that you would have guessed that day one when Mike Alden introduced you.
Yeah, I had no idea. It was kind of interesting when I first got here. I had a bunch of people tell me, business people, people that are successful, that you got to start a foundation. Well, Martin, as you well know, we had losing, winning, losing, and I'm gonna start a foundation. I look at these people like, are you crazy? Me start a foundation? I can't even get people. People would blow my car up. I can't even win football games. So at the end of the day, with that, obviously our program turned like I thought it would. That's when I thought it was too late then to get. I helped a lot of different areas, but it's nice that I can have my own, and we're just really happy about it.
A lot of nostalgia with the downtown, and I know Chase Daniel got the gang back together, that famous 2007 season. I think about your tenure there, and I think it's like Brad Smith changed the program, and then Chase Daniel changed the program again. How reflective have you been during this period and catching up with some of your players?
Oh, that's one of the greatest things about my job is I got my players. And these guys are, I call them, they call me. It's just one of the greatest things that you do. I've been out to Washington. I told you a few years ago, they unveiled Don James's statue a couple of years ago, and they asked me to speak at me and Warren Moon. And Warren Moon, he represented the players, and I represent all the coaches that work for Coach James. And I went out there and I saw players. You have to understand, when I got out there as 28, the seniors on that team were 20. I was working there 28. The seniors on the team were 22. So they've seen me on TV. So I'm 65 years old at the time. They're 61 or 62. They've seen me. I haven't seen them. They've seen me age on TV. But I'm telling you one thing, you could tell who they were, and you're hugging each other like you had dinner with them 2 weeks ago. The bond that you have, and honestly, the bond is not only that you played football. The bond is when you won the Cotton Bowl. When you played divisional championships, and you really went to great bowl games and had success. The bond of winning is like unbelievable, and so that's one of the great assets that are around, and one of the great joys for me is I get to hang around players and talk to them, and they still ask me to help them assist them in jobs and things like that. But I'll do anything for any of my players.
Yeah, and I get the sense, as cool as it is, all the players in the NFL that played for Gary Pinkel, if a kid walks through the door and says, "Hey, coach, I just got promoted at my real estate office, my insurance office," you're happy as hell for that too.
You're what?
I said, you're happy as hell when you see a kid having
Oh
success.
yeah, no
Forget
question.
the NFL.
No question. I got these stories of the guys that own businesses that they move out to vice president. I mean, I hear all those, but that's all. We didn't do that. Their parents were a part of that, but we certainly. One thing we did is we ran our program with integrity, and we did the right things for kids. We just didn't. We did the right things for kids, and I felt that was a responsibility, that it was a value run program, that the values that we all have as people, and certainly encouraged and certainly helped. And I did one time. I had a meeting with my players on how to take a gal on a date, and they walk around, do all. I see them stop walking our building, being respectful and things like that. I just did a lot of stuff like that because that was stuff that I had to do to help my kids.
And coach, I wouldn't make you pick one moment, but how about a couple of favorite Mizzou moments? All right, I'll give you mine. Mine is the Henry Josie touchdown run because it sealed the deal to get to the SEC title game. Josie had all those injuries, and then on the other side you had Johnny Football, and all of us nervous Mizzou fans are thinking, "Oh no, what's going to happen here?" How about for Gary Pinkel? Just a handful of them.
Well, people, I'm a bit better for this because people have been asking me that, and I usually don't. I don't like to mention a name because I have 7,000 names I can't mention. So if you kind of look at our program as we got there, first 4 years losing, winning, losing. Then we took off, went to 9 bowls next 12, 11 years. So those first 4 years, all those guys that came in, a bunch of them lived in St. Louis, Kansas City, from those areas. When we started a football program, they struggled, man. We had a bunch of players quit, but those guys just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and we got better and better. Then in 2003, a bunch of those guys were there. Sometimes, they were part of that. They went to we went to a bowl that year, and that was just like we finally got back in. 2 winning seasons, 17 years. But the one thing great about that was that Nebraska game in 2003. To 2003, that's what I'm talking about, the first 4 years. 2003, we hadn't beat Nebraska for 25 years. When we won that game, it would look like we won the national championship 9 times over. It's hard to even realize how mammoth that was. But that was great for that group of kids. And then the Chase Daniel group you're talking about, the 2007 group, 2008, they won championships back to back. They kind of took Mizzou to a different level. So you pat all those guys that had a huge influence there. Now the next shot were those guys after that 2003 season, 4 season, then they went and we took off there. And then the next big group that came out, 2010, we had a championship that year too. Blaine Gabbert was the quarterback, had a great year for us. We saw Blaine the other day. But the next big group of players out there was the 2013 that we ended up 4th in the nation, won the Cotton Bowl. 2015 we did too. So those are the 3 segments of my players in all those games that really mean a lot to me. They all contributed for us, and we built a pretty good, strong program and national program. And I think our last 11 years we were top 15 in the nation and winning. So. But there were so many memorable games. I remember Henry Josie doing that. I remember, we did a fake punt in our bowl game down in Florida in the Citrus Bowl. And we were playing, who were we playing now? We were playing, I think, Minnesota. And we did a fake punt, and we snapped it to the signal caller there instead of the punter. And he went like 40 yards, and the whole game changed then. All of a sudden, we ended up clobbering him. So there's so many great games, it's hard to even go back to those particular ones.
All right, how about a final quarantine, lockdown, shutdown, whatever we're calling it? How much have you been able to get to the Ozarks and get out on the boat and just kind of be social distance a little bit at the Ozarks?
Yeah, just we're trying to be responsible. I mean, that's the biggest thing is I think there's a lot of things, there are positives that you get out of this too. And I'll always do that. I mean, this has been difficult, but there's a lot of family things, personal relationship things that I've heard a lot of people talk about marriages. They're talking about their kids. They spent more time with their kids in the last 2 months or last 6 weeks, than they had for the previous 5 years, because they're dropping them here, pick them up here, drop them here, do all that other stuff. So, and I just think as we do through this, we're all on the same team. Everybody's got responsibility, and, just be responsible. That's the most important thing. Just be responsible. Take it serious, even though you might not think it's ever going to happen. You just take it serious, and we get out of this thing. And I think at the end of the day, it brings us closer together.
And typical TV guy, I lied. Final thought, last thought, actually. Coach Drinkwitz got a lot of momentum now. How excited are you for the future of the program?
Well, I'm real excited for him. I mean, it's. I tell people all the time it's hard to win. You've heard me say that 100 times, but it is very hard, very, very hard to win. That's why the life expectancy in our profession, the Power 5 is like 6.2 years. The coach before he goes on. So he, I think, is a really sharp guy. He's got a plan in place. He's remarkably high energy. I mean, you've talked to him. He's a pretty amazing guy. So I think he hired a good staff, and now he just got to get going. But he'll be tireless in his work ethic, and certainly you can see that in the recruiting right now. So I'm really happy for him. He's got a great looking stadium. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That new south end zone. I don't know if you've been in it, but it is. I mean, it is as good a place as anywhere in the country now. Our facilities are as good as anybody in the nation. Now, go.
Yeah, we need a picture of when Gary Pinkel walked through those doors and Mike Alden showed him 20 years to now. It's unbelievable. If we could do a time lapse, it'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I said, you had a little bit better resources than me. And he laughed a little bit. And, we did some great things. Mike Alden did some great things. In fact, that was our plan. The South End Zone was our plan. It got knocked back a year when we changed ADs. And all of a sudden, Jim Sturck comes back in here and gets the whole thing going in the right direction. And it was mammoth, because if we wouldn't have done that and just said, well, let's wait 5 more years, Mizzou football would have just went like this. But they stood up to it, and they did the right things, and they built it the right way. So I'm real excited, for Coach Eli and their staff and the players. And, it's so important. When we finally built our program here, we were getting the best kids in the state of Missouri was hugely important. When Jeremy Macklin was going to go to Oklahoma, and all of a sudden I get a call from him, Cornell Ford says, J-Max wants to talk to you. I said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. And he calls me up and says, I'm not going to go to Oklahoma. I'm going to Mizzou. That was a rippling effect for the state of Missouri, all the way to Kansas City. From that point on, it all changed. And anyway, I get chills thinking about that.